Well, hello there, and welcome to Chatty Patti, the show where you, yours, and yours truly hear from some incredible artists and figure out what they're all about. I'm your host, Patti Boo Ray, and today I am getting on the horn with the one, the only, Emma Frankland. Emma is an award-winning writer, theater maker, and performer whose work is often playfully destructive and gloriously irreverent. Over the past decade, Emma has cemented her status as a prominent and innovative theater artist. Her work often focuses on issues around gender identity and politically motivated performance. It has been performed internationally in Indonesia, Brazil, Turtle Island, and across the UK and Europe. She's an associate artist with Marlborough Productions and has written several episodes for Channel 4's iconic continuing drama, Hollyoaks. Emma is, quite frankly, a titan of trans performance and of British theater more generally, and I am beyond excited to get her on the horn. So, without further ado, operator? Hello? This is Patti Boo Ray. Chatty Patti. Emma Frankland, welcome to Chatty Patti.
Thanks.
How's your weekend going?
It is the weekend. Well, we're at this festival and there's lots of gorgeous trans people around and lots of work to be seen, lots of performance work. It's nice to be in the abundance of, lots of trans performance. So yeah, it's been good. And the sun's out in Newcastle.
Is it? Maybe it is, maybe it is. It feels as if the sun is beating down on me in here, but it's a bit toasty in live theater.
Yeah.
Because we're sort of dedicated to the lost art of the phone call.
Okay.
How do you answer the phone, Emma Frankland?
How do I answer the phone? Do I even speak on the phone anymore? Or do I speak only in voice
That's what
notes?
I'm saying, lost art of the phone call.
Yeah.
When was the last time you even answered the phone?
It's a really good question. How do I answer the phone? Hello? Actually, I never identify myself. When people say, oh, hi, is that Emma Frankland? I always say, who's speaking, please? Because I don't like to acknowledge who I am before I know exactly who I'm speaking to.
I like that, actually. That come from getting cold calls and then...
Yeah, it comes from cold calls. It comes from having... I think it comes from living with debt and not wanting to know.
Oh, yeah. No, you don't want to volunteer your identity to your predators when they call you in the dead of the night.
And also, I think it comes from a time, a long time ago, but when I was transitioning and then there would be there were a couple of names in play. And so when the phone would ring, people might ask for my old name and you'd be like, who is this?
Sorry, but who are you, first of all?
How have you got
from there.
How have you got this name? Why are you called it? Or you've got my new name. Why have you got my new name? Who is... So yeah, I think I just move cautiously.
Great.
Yeah.
Wise words to live by.
Oh my God, I just heard.
I would love to know what makes you tick as an artist, because I'm a bit of a fan, to be honest. And so I just would love to know what is the kind of thread through your work as you see it, or was there something that you saw or experienced that put you on the path to become the artist that you are today?
What's the thread? I think I've always been trying to answer this question of what is my performance, or what's the purpose of performance? Why am I making work? And I guess I've been making work now for long enough that I can see themes and things come back in my work. And I think for a while I was resistant to that. You're like, oh no, I can't make another messy show because the last show was messy. This show has to be different from that. Otherwise I'm being boring. And I think actually now what I see is I'm like, oh, this thing's showing up again. So then rather than try and push that away, I'm more interested in it. Okay, so making a mess is showing up again. So what is it about what I'm trying to say that requires a messy state in order to be able to say it? And okay, if I'm going to make a mess, let's make the best mess. Or how can I make a better mess or a more interesting mess or a messier mess? So yeah, I think I'm trying to work out the form of my work, which is mess, deconstruction, physical tasks, strength-based things. I love a picture on stage that is completely different by the time the show has finished. And I think a lot of that does come from my experience, my existence as a trans woman, as a white trans woman in the UK in this particular time and that I've been living. And I think there's something about messiness, an embodied experience of being trans. I feel so much connected to physicality in a way. So yeah, I think that's where maybe some of those things come from. Yeah.
Do you feel like there's something also about all orderly shows are to some extent alike in their orderliness, but everything messy is messy in its own way?
Yeah, no two messes are the same.
Yeah.
And I like things that are So I work in live performance mostly, right? I do write TV now occasionally, but predominantly the work that I make is live. And here we are in live theater. And so what is it about live performance that we can do with an audience in that room that you can't do in any other medium? And so, I'm interested in how the wax, when I pour it on my skin, forms, and that's always going to look different. I'm interested in what this audience is going to feel like, what that conversation is going to be today, because it's never going to be that again.
Could you maybe give us a moment, maybe recently from your work, an example of a mess or an example of a live, unrepeatable, unique thing that you staged for people who aren't familiar with your work?
Yeah, I mean, my current show, which is called No Apologies, that is a show about wishful thinking. Fundamentally, it's about how we need to be able to speak aloud the things that we want to see in the world. Mm-hmm. It's particularly important, I think, when, for the trans community, for the queer community, for us to speak transness, to create histories where we didn't have histories, to create role models where we didn't have role models. And the way that I'm talking about that in this show is by exploring the online rumors around Kurt Cobain, the singer of Nirvana, and her gender identity, because maybe Kurt Cobain was trans. And so that's an interesting kind of provocation to talk about this, and what difference would it have made if Kurt Cobain had come out when I was 14? Mm-hmm. Probably a big difference to
Absolutely.
Me, to the culture, Do
you remember when you first encountered this theory or this notion about Kurt Cobain's transness?
I think it's been kicking around white trans girl discourse for a long time.
Yes.
I mean, Kurt Cobain died 30 years ago, and there is lots of evidence, and I'm sure even at the time within their contemporaries. So it's been around as long as I can remember being out and trans.
Right.
In that game of who, statistically, there's got to be a lot more trans celebrities.
Who would have been? Yes.
Who would have been? Who is?
Yeah.
Who would we want to be? Who do we not want to be as well? So part of that game. And so then the performance becomes a restaging, a reimagining of the 1993 MTV Unplugged gig. And the rule for this show has been, if it was on stage in that gig, then we can have it. So we have lilies, we have candles, we have the candelabra, we have the red curtains. And so that's quite a neat sort of setup and stage setup. And then the messiness, I guess, comes from how that then falls apart and what happens when the chandelier falls from the sky and say the candles get poured and the wax goes everywhere, and the very nice TV gig becomes a grunge gig because it's punk. Kurt Cobain was punk and Kurt Cobain was grunge, and we light a fire on the stage, and the show is quite obsessed with the lyrics of the song All Apologies, which speaks about shame, which speaks about everything's my fault. It's a lot of kind of things that resonate with me, I think, my experience as a trans woman. The line choking on the ashes of her enemies. And so then that led me to okay, well, what is it to swallow ash? And so then there's ash on the stage. And so you start the show in one form and then end with, a lot of messiness. But I say it's messiness on my body as the structure falls apart.
I have been asking everyone, what is trans performance? Mm-hmm. What is trans performance to you?
Yeah.
Is there something about that idea of mess and messiness that is part of your understanding of what trans performance is?
Yeah, for sure. And I think, it's funny, this is the question that keeps coming up at this festival, isn't it? Is what is trans performance? And everyone's answering it in different ways. And, I think fundamentally trans performance is performance made by trans people, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And there was an interesting thing said on the panel earlier about, the performance we make before we're out as trans, before we understand ourselves as trans people.
Yeah.
It is de facto trans performance because, I was always a trans girl. I was performing masculinity, and I don't know, that's been really healing for me, being able to understand that I didn't not have a trans childhood. I had a trans childhood. I just wasn't able to be out as trans. I wasn't able to articulate that for myself. So yeah, I think trans performance is performance by trans people. Also neurodiversity, I find the chaos of the mess, taking a structure and then putting it apart and then rebuilding it. Because I should say, actually, I've described the point of the show, which everything falls apart, but then we rebuild, and I think actually with No Apologies, which is a show that also talks about loss, about suicide, about grief, about, some of the uncomfortable position we're in 2025 in this country. And so actually it feels responsible to try and find a way out of that. And okay, from the ashes of this performance can we build towards something that feels positive and shining? Because I think that's what we do as trans people, is we shine and we are bright and we are fire.
And ash. And
yeah,
like,
you know, well, trans is sex and earth and guts and blood and piss and shit. And yeah, we transcend as well. Like, there's a reason why trans people come up in mythology as gods and goddesses, why we used to sit as trusted advisors to people in power, and also then why we are seen as the threat, right? Because historically we always held a lot of power. My last show, Hearty, which talked a lot about we have always been here, and the we being not just white trans people from the UK, but like what other stories are there? And I think this kind of role as intuitive people, as people who can see things for how they are and say it, I think that leads us to, that makes us dangerous.
Yes.
Please hold.
This is a gorgeous setup, by the way.
Thank you.
Thanks for welcoming me into your sitting room.
Oh my, thank you. Yeah, that's what I
Oh,
like
you have
to
a cool
feel.
phone here as well.
Thank
can
you.
see.
Yeah, got a cool phone. We've got one plant that looks fake but is real.
Yeah.
And that plant, I think, looks real but is fake. You can maybe tell better than I can.
I think it's real.
Is it real?
Yeah.
Oh, there you
real.
go. Thank you so much, Matt. Really
Kids today
appreciate
don't
it.
know what these phones are. I have a child.
Don't know
so
what they are?
They don't know what these kind of phones are. So I have a 13-year-old, and if you ask them to mime a phone, they will now do like this or this, right? Like taking a photograph. It's not this
It's
anymore.
not this thing.
No, that is done.
That's so weird because I still do this, but I'm probably of the
Not a
last
phone.
generation. I'm not much of a.
What's a phone?
What I always think about is the only person who I still call on a landline is my grandmother.
Right.
The only one. And it is so lovely because she's the only person I call who doesn't know who's calling before she answers the phone.
Totally.
So she answers and just says, hello. And then I say, hi, it's
That's
me.
gorgeous.
And then you hear the like excitement in their voice as they realize who's calling.
Yeah, totally.
And I miss that a bit.
Hello, operator. Can you put me through to the next segment?
Okay, you told me that if you were a drink, you would be a smoothie.
Yeah. Look at that color.
Wow. Why a smoothie?
On brand. Well, now I know we're drinking it. I'm fairly relieved I said a smoothie.
What else were you thinking?
Well, I started with alcohol, so I was thinking of alcoholic drinks, but it's quite early in the day. I was thinking of a smoothie. I was thinking about the work that I make, and I was thinking about deconstruction and violence, and I was thinking that actually a smoothie is an intensely violent drink because you start off with all this fruit, and then you chop the shit out of it and blend it all up. But then you make something that's quite sweet.
Yes.
Which I think is how my work is. Like there's mess and violence, but actually the message is sweet. Sweet and nourishing.
Shall we? I hope it's sweet. I haven't tasted
Yeah.
it. Cheers, my dear.
Cheers. I can't hold that with the snails. Okay, not super sweet, but probably good for you.
Tastes very healthy.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's also like my work. Hard to
God,
digest,
also
but healthy.
like pepper? Am I crazy?
Oh my God, this is probably what I need. Yeah, that's a healthy smoothie.
It's very refreshing.
It is.
I'm getting spinach, spirulina, and then honestly like black pepper, but maybe I'm crazy.
They did say to be more specific about the smoothie, the surprise smoothie. Oh my God, I was thinking I should be more specific, and I probably would have expressed fruit. I'm getting the pepper
I
now.
was told Emma does not want an innocent smoothie. I said,
No, Innocent's Coca-Cola though, isn't it? They sold out. They sold out.
really? Okay, do you know what's crazy? In my new neighborhood in London, our recycling, so the innocent smoothie like HQ,
Yeah.
I can see it, not quite from my flat, but down the street. And it's just like the eyes in Gatsby. It's just like the huge, like little innocent smoothie eyes on the side of this tower, and they just watch over the neighborhood.
That's wild.
And our recycling is sponsored, I don't know, by Innocent Smoothie. All of our recycling bags are Innocent Smoothie branded, and then the Innocent Smoothie truck comes and collects all of our recycling and takes it away.
It's so sad because they started off, they were like, they were trying to do
innocent.
something. They were trying to change something, and then they sold out to Coke, and it's not pink washing, but it's like eco washing, right?
Yes.
It's green washing.
Okay, well, this might be a good segue into my next question, which is what grinds your gears? What is getting under your skin at the moment? And I
have some water?
Oh my
It's
God,
really
it's
peppery.
actually quite spicy. Yeah, is there any water? Like, what is in here?
The fuck?
Is this a prank? Did we get pranked? It's not bad, but it is like
It's really not bad.
much more like a gazpacho than a smoothie, I would
Yeah.
say. A cold soup.
Hello? Oh,
So, yes, my next question,
Yeah.
which is what grinds your gears? And I am liberating everyone from talking about the state of trans rights in the UK, which is grinding all of our gears. Feel free to also talk about that as well.
Well, I mean, it would be remiss to not talk about the wars that are happening in Gaza, the occupation in Gaza, the unprovoked attacks on Iran. Sure, there's this stuff that's happening in the UK around trans laws, but I think in comparison, like, these are the big things we should be concerned about. I also think if we want to be closer to home, the cuts to disability allowance, this is huge. We're seeing like attacks on the most vulnerable people of society, and it affects everybody, you know, like disability is something that can affect you, can become disabled at any point in your life. It cuts across class, it cuts across gender.
It's super harmful. So I think, you know, these are the things that really should be the fights that we are engaging with. And I think that myself as a white trans woman from the UK, you know, I can show up for these fights that are not mine in a way that is empowering. And then I'm happy when other people show up and support me in my fights, because it's harder to advocate for yourself. And it's more powerful when you advocate for other people. So yeah, that. But did you want something more?
No, that's, I think that's really useful. And actually a difficult question, apologies in advance. How do you see the role of art and specifically performance in that fight with all of these things going on that you outlined? I also do believe that, you know, artistic work has a real role to play in like cultural conversations around big issues. And also sometimes I'm like, the art is my activism. Is that a bit of a cop out? Like, am I retreating to the space where I feel comfortable, which is a performance space, and not like getting out in the world and doing the groundwork? But I'm curious how you navigate that.
So I think the revolution requires all of us to show up in different ways. You bring what you can bring. Not everybody is bringing, I'm standing on the front line, I'm going to be confronting, I'm going to be resisting the fascists when they're on the streets. We need the people who do that, and then we need the people who drive them to the protests. We need the people who will pick up afterwards. We need the people who can be online. We need the people who are making performance. You know, art has existed for all time, in all cultures. It probably has a purpose. And so I think we got to trust that, you know?
That's an excellent point.
And then I think that it is responsible to ask ourselves, what is my art doing? What am I doing with this lineage? Like, you know, to be an artist, what a sacred position. And I think I saw Mickey Blanco perform a couple of years ago, a bit closer to the sort of the initial lockdown period of the COVID pandemic. And, you know, Mickey was articulating, I'm inviting people to come and see me perform live. This is something that is dangerous. This is now a hazard to health. Like, you could be risking your life to come and experience live performance. So you better make sure that you're doing something with that. Like, I'm asking people to risk their lives to come and see me. So what am I saying? I guess the way that I've always seen it is that the responsibility is to be honest, to speak your truth, to reflect your experience. I can only reflect my own experience. You know, I think that if we do that, that doesn't mean that we can't be funny. It doesn't mean we can't make up shit. It doesn't mean we can't do fiction or romance or whatever. But I think the responsibility to be honest, and like I said right at the start with the wishful thinking, to describe the things that we want to see, the change. Like, art is the space where it's easy to make change, to demonstrate change, to show what we could be. Someone said, is it James Baldwin? I'm not sure, that the job of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And I think that's a great...
Probably James Baldwin.
Probably.
Good guess.
I mean, you know, they said a lot of great stuff, so we'll let them have it.
Patti here. We had the wrong novelist. That's actually a quote from Tony Cade Bambara.
That's a real great provocation. And I don't like to call myself an activist, not least because in this day and age, it becomes dangerous to call oneself an activist or to be called an activist when I don't invite that. But I mean, again, like sort of referencing other people, but Kate Bornstein, trans elder artist, writer from the States, speaks of her work as art in the service of activism. And I quite like that because, like, I know activists, and, you know, what I do, it's not quite the same.
It's not the same, is
as activism, but I would love to think that my art is in service of activism, and within my performances, give people, look, here's what you can do. Here's what you can go out and do, and go out and change things.
Ahoy, ahoy, this is Patti Bouret.
Can I ask you what you're proudest of in the course of your career so far?
I think it's really important to feel pride and to celebrate, actually, and like the further along I get in my career. the better I'm getting at recognizing being in the moment and being like,
Good.
here, look, I'm on the Chatti Patti show. This is incredible. Like, this is a moment. Like, be proud of where I've come from. You know, I came from the middle of nowhere in Cornwall. Like, I grew up through amateur dramatics. Like, growing up, we didn't have a telephone in my family. Like, it's been a long journey to be where I am. But then I think to really answer your question, it's probably the ways in which I've been able to open doors and create opportunities for other people, for other trans people, just giving people roles or jobs, or like done dramaturgy for other people, and then seeing them go on and grow and flourish. And I think there's something really beautiful about seeing my role in the bigger thing that is trans performance, queer performance, whatever. So I think, yeah, being, you know, I recognize I'm proud of where I'm at. I try and celebrate those moments, but I'm also really proud because I think I am a part of a bigger system.
Mm-hmm.
She hung up on me.
And where can people stay abreast of your work and see what you're up to?
I mean, probably Instagram is the place to find
Great.
me. I'm not yet a robot on Instagram,
Right.
which was a handle coined
Haha.
about 10 years ago. And I can't believe that we're back at that point
Yeah.
of like political argument of what is a biological woman and what is a non-biological person. And
Oh, wait, so that's so interesting. When you initially had the handle, what was the context there?
it came from this kind of biological woman. You're not a biological woman. And I just was like, well, what's the opposite of a biological woman? Is like a robot, right? Like a
A cyborg.
non-bio. And so it came from a line in a show that was like, you know, we are all biological. None of us is yet a robot. And then None of us is yet a robot was a title of a kind of a body of work that I worked on for a while. And then it kind of felt like, yeah, I closed off that chapter and I was like done with the robot stuff. And then now it's back and it's all biological toilet policing, and you're like, what? It just seems like such a silly way to try and distinguish.
Cycles of it are very frustrating,
Yeah.
isn't it? I don't know. Do you find that frustrating that these things like keep coming back, or do you find it encouraging in some ways because you're like, oh no, I've seen this before. Like I know this playbook.
It's interesting to get older and to have been out as trans for longer and to so see and be, okay. We've been here before, and I recognize this, and in a way it's exhausting. It's exhausting, and it's tiring, right? I think as a trans person, I don't know about you, I never had an expectation of being around. Like, that's not as heavy as it maybe sounds, but just like quite hard to see a future. And then actually now, I think I do see a future more. Like I have a lovely partner, and you know, I have my kid, and I'm like, okay, wow, maybe I'm gonna be here for a while. And then beginning to see, okay, that there's these cycles, we're gonna go round and round again. But I just think like, yeah, the biological thing, like we have words. We could say cis woman, trans woman. No one's out here pretending that we are cis women.
No, and also it's the like, what is a woman debate is so like willfully flattening by design.
Yeah.
Kind of focuses on this little piece of the puzzle
Totally.
rather than having a broader sort of cultural reckoning and
Totally.
growth. It is heartening to me as someone who came of age in a recent high point, painting with very broad strokes. I like came of age at a time when it seemed like there was lots of possibility and like progress was just sort of this like inevitable thing that was just going to happen to us no matter what. And so then seeing that roll back was initially quite difficult, but actually talking to more people and starting to think of it less as like a linear movement that was disrupted and more as like a process where we like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and that it kind of keeps moving.
And I think we have to see that, so we're in this, cycles, and a cycle of transness is about erasure and violence, and then rediscovery, and then celebration, and then erasure, like again, and when we go around these cycles of violence. And I think that we're, firstly in the UK, we're a lot safer from physical violence than trans people in other places in the world, and we need to be real about that. And especially as white trans people, we need to be real about what the dangers to us actually are. And, if we get into too much hyperbole about it, we're not actually able to confront the thing. The other thing is it does change and it does evolve.
And to bring back to your phone, right? Because we're celebrating the phone.
This new technology, which we're into, I think this is the thing that we haven't seen before. We're so connected in ways that our community has never been able to be. And I'm excited for a generation that's come up with trans pride as just a thing that happens rather than a thing that has to be invented.
And there's no putting that back in the box.
No
like
putting
that's
back in the box.
out now.
The archive is so much more visible than it has ever been, I think. You know, you can't, like in the way that the Hirschfeld archives were burnt by the Nazis in Germany in the 40s, you know, you can't burn the last decade of the internet. So what is actually going to happen? That's exciting.
That is really exciting. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. It's been so lovely chatting to you and getting to know you a bit. I am going to let you go. Is that time to go? Emma, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry to rush you out, but I'll be here all weekend, so I'll catch you downstairs. And I'm very much looking forward to your sharing, which is
it's tonight. And then the show's going to be in Edinburgh as well.
Oh, great. Okay, wonderful.
August.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'll see it there too.
Thank you.
Me again. We weren't sure if this was going to be out in time, but seeing as it is, I just wanted to jump in and make sure y'all know that Emma's show about Kurt Cobain, No Apologies, is going to be on all month at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival at Summerhall, venue 26. So make sure you get along to see it if you're in the area. I think it's going to be really special.
Chatty Patti is a podcast from Curious Arts and Patti Boo Productions. This episode was recorded by Matt Jamie and edited by TJ Mauve. This is part of a special series from the Trans Performance Now Festival, hosted here in Newcastle with collaboration from Northumbria University, Curious Arts, and Live Theatre. You can follow Curious at Curious_Arts and me at Patti Boo Ray. If you're looking for a way to support the trans community right now, you might consider supporting a charity that works with trans folks, either with your money, if you have it, or by volunteering your time.
Chatty Patti.
What was in the smoothie?
It was a green smoothie.
It was spicy.
Spicy.
Yes. We had to take a water break.